I had made the decision. It was time to move forward. There was no reason to go 6, 7, 8 weeks, however long we remain in the season. Um, it was not fair to John. It was not fair to the team. It just seemed the right thing. It gives us plenty of opportunity now to identify um, future candidates that we're going to interview, to get to know watch the internal candidates. I'm just not that person that's going to sit on a decision like that.
What is happening, my people? How's it going? Thanks for tuning in tonight. Welcome, Titan Nation, to the Titans Rossi channel. This is part of the Titan Upload Network. Please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. We have an incredible show for you guys tonight. I got a phone call this morning, and from a dear friend of mine who's also a part of this network, our resident insider. And, it got me excited. And I will tell you this. I do not know this news yet. He wouldn't even tell me because he said he wants to see my reaction live on the air. So I'm hearing this news first. You're going to hear all this news first, and we're going to break it down. James is with us, a.k.a. Titans for Life. James Wheeler, a.k.a. the Big Sportsman 3, man of many titles. And we're excited to have him on tonight because he's going to break this whole thing down for us. And remember, guys, you heard it first here on the Titan Upload Network. So please show us some love, hit the like button, all that type of stuff. We got 30 people in the building already. We're going to go ahead and bring James on in here. What's up, buddy?
Ooh, it's been a fast and furious few days. Man, I tell you that it's just been really mind blowing to me, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So. What's up?
What's up, TA?
I really do wish TA was in this with us, because I would want to hear him, because he would go on an epic rant right now. He would start going on an epic rant with some of this stuff.
I bet, man. And let me start you off with this. And we had Corey Curtis on the show the other day, and it was an awesome show. And of course, nobody really knows too much yet. They're keeping it close to the hip. And I knew, and I asked him, I said, was there more to the story? And he kind of hinted at, yeah, there more than likely is, but we're not going to be told that. Just kind of, what was your initial reaction? We'll build into what this show is about throughout the show, guys. We're going to throw you some information all the way through, but what was your initial reaction when you saw J-Rob fire? Just right off the bat initially.
Well, my initial reaction is, at this point in the season, this doesn't make sense. I mean, at this point in the season, the Titans are in first place in the AFC South. More than likely, they're going to win the division. And it really doesn't make that much sense, from a organizational standpoint, unless there has to be something that people are not seeing or hearing about. So that was my first thought. My second thought was, let me make some phone calls. And the phone calls led to piecing together the story of what was going on and how it was going on. And it was really, as I started getting more and more information, it was really kind of like, this can't be right. I'm missing something here. There's no way. And then I started getting more and more stories from different sources, because I have several different sources. I have a multitude of sources. And just so everyone knows, I'm going to keep some of the stuff really generic, because the specifics could possibly be trouble for some people. So I will be keeping it somewhat generic on on the exact things that were said and how they were said, because I was given quotes, but I'm not going to say those quotes because there was only a few people around when those quotes were said. So um
Okay.
I mean, it's just wow. How could this possibly have happened? And I don't understand. I just don't understand it. And I don't understand what J Rob was thinking. I really don't.
Yeah. Okay, and kind of let's just start off from the beginning, man, of what you've kind of found out. I'll kind of let you guide us along here, you
Well,
know.
it kind of started uh not last season, but the season before last, and there were some issues that were occurring. The coaching staff would often have players they felt were a better fit, that they had a fit for the scheme, and the other players that were there, because you may have two All Pro linemen, and they not play well together because their skill sets don't match up well. So when their skill sets don't match up well, you end up with big issues. So coaching staffs will often do that. Okay, they will look at a player and go, well, he's great, but he doesn't fit our scheme, and he doesn't fit the skill set of a guy that we already have that is really really good. Uh,
Right.
so what would end up happening? What ended up happening a couple of times was J Rob would just, Jon Robinson would just go out and acquire a player and tell the coaching staff, here, use him. And and
Really?
yeah, and they would just be like, what, how what?" you know and and and
So,
and you may have
wh-
heard some comments about that, uh
yeah,
from the coaching staff, where where they said, we have to play with the team we're given. And
interesting.
that's what that's referencing, is that J Rob would just often go out and just acquire a player.
So
And
you're telling me that basically kind of what you're hearing is it wasn't really a matter of Vrabel or really coaches being involved in any of these type of decisions. It was more just like J Rob saying, "Okay, here's a player, boom,
well, I mean,
take it.
they would
Do what you
have
can with him."
and the funny thing is they'd have meetings and they'd talk about, these are the players who we kind of want and that we kind of could use and need. And I mean, it would be like he would seem like he was on board with that,
Yeah,
and um and then he would just do something different. And I don't,
interesting.
and you hear about that from time to time with GMs, where they do that. Um, because maybe they come up on a player that no one thought they could get, and and then all of a sudden this player is available, and you don't have a lot of time to react because there may be you know 7 or 8 other teams involved. That kind of stuff happens, and that kind of leads us into the Dennis Daly thing. Uh, that
Okay.
that was an interesting thing. The scouts and the staff really thought that they had other players that fit a little better, that had a better skill set, and that didn't require draft picks, or maybe not. I think they gave him, what, a fifth round, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, and that may have been, more of a sixth or a seventh round pick. That they thought what they could get for pretty cheap that would fit the Titans scheme and the skill set that they needed. Um, and I guess, and the other thing was is that people knew, that a lot of people, even in the media, knew that Daly was probably going to get cut. That the Titans didn't have to do anything; they could have just waited for him to get cut, and they could have picked him up for free. And at which point, I think even for free, the way he's been playing lately may have been too much. you know.
Right.
So that was kind of interesting, that they would do that he would do something like that. Look, if my scouts and my coaches are telling me one thing, I, I'm going to have to kind of lean on them because they're the ones that are, they're there. They see it. They know, and with the odd occasion of where I would go out and say, okay, look, we've got a guy who is available that we didn't think is available. That's a completely different story. But Dennis Daly was he was going to be available for no draft picks.
Right.
They could have picked him up for a song, and that was one of those things
Did the
where go ahead.
uh, did they have any, as far as the Daily thing? How much interaction did the coaches have with this type of situation there?
Um,
I mean, was that kind of another J-Rob just
that was
throwing something to see if it'll stick? Or, I mean, I don't know.
my understanding was that he was mentioned at some point in time, in some of the meetings that they had, some of the discussions they had, but he was not he was not anywhere near the top of their discussions. That there was another player on another team that they really kind of wanted, that they could have gotten for probably nothing, or a sixth or a seventh round pick, and would have been able to do a lot better than what everyone felt Daly would be able to do. But don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not hating on Dennis Daly. Um, Look, just to make it to the league is hard enough. Uh, but
Right.
there are hierarchy of players, and he is not in that top echelon of guys who you want to pick up and give a draft pick for, especially if he's going to
Mm-hmm.
be on the street in 2 or 3 days.
Right. And what do you make of Amy not being there? Is that a big deal to you, not being at the press conference? I mean, and let me ask you this too. Couple that with, you know, how did Vrabel have anything to do with this J Rob thing? Because they're saying he didn't, as far as it's either me or him type of situation.
M-
Did any of that go down at all, or do you know?
My understanding is that kind of hard line was not taken. It really wasn't taken. The
Yeah,
kind of the hard line, or the kind of way it played out was kind of like, look, this team is not as good as it could have been or should be had we
yeah,
acquired the players that the coaching staff and the scouts had spent time and effort to look at and go, these are the players that we need to pick from. Um,
yeah,
there were some strategic errors that I think Jon Robinson made that kind of forced the hand. And
yeah,
it wasn't, from what I understand, a me or him mentality. It was, look, we're not where we need to be or should be, had
yeah,
you know things played out differently when it came to acquisitions and things like that, acquisitions and paying salaries and new contract deals and things like that.
all right.
Because
So I
I
guess,
will tell you this: the AJ Brown trade was a surprise to almost everybody on the coaching staff. It
wow.
was like,
And that's, I was gonna say, if you want to, if you want to go ahead and open the can of worms, and we might as well give the people what they want. We got 60 people in the building, which is amazing. Hit that like button. Please subscribe. If you want to go ahead and, open the can of worms and just,
well,
about this AJ thing and what the mind-blowing thing is, it's up to you. We can get into it now. We'll break down some of the game and get into other stuff like that
yeah.
too, on the latter half and stuff. But
Well, AJ Brown and Jeffrey Simmons kind of go together. Okay, it's kind of a weird. It was kind. It's not a weird situation in that it doesn't happen almost all the time in the NFL because salary cap and things like that. But how they had to handle the contracts was kind of like they had to do one before the other. They had to do AJ's before they could get the Jeff Simmons, so that they could structure contracts properly, so that they had cap space and they could do what they needed to do in the cap. So when you're talking about these contracts, and remember they're very complicated. Caps, cap space has to be done here. You can do certain things to give yourself more cap space. It doesn't have to be we have to cut this player or that player. You can structure deals so that the cap is not really a big deal. And I can't remember who did we have on here that was, we were talking with, and they said, the cap is not real, and in a way it's not.
Yeah.
And in a way it's not, depending on how you structure things. So the first thing that was on the slate was dealing with AJ Brown, getting an AJ Brown contract in place. The ownership wanted the contract in place. They had a set amount, and there's some background to this because everyone knows what AJ Brown has said was offered to him, and what a lot of the people in the Titans have said. We offered him, I believe up to $29 million a year is what I've heard being tossed around. Somewhere between 26 and $29 million a year was what they were willing to offer him. It was what they were offering him. And that's where this whole, AJ just didn't want to be here. Well, AJ did want to be here. He wanted to be a Tennessee Titan. He wanted to remain in Tennessee. He wanted to remain in Nashville. He liked it here. There were things he didn't like, but I mean, in every job, there's things we don't like. And then there was this, AJ comes out and says, he was offered 16 million with 4 million in incentives. So bringing his total to somewhere around 20 million, per year. His average around 20 million per year. But I've confirmed through several different sources that the ownership and Shannon, they had worked out the cap to where they could offer AJ somewhere between 22 million a year plus 6 to 7 million in incentives. That's where you get the 29 million, right? And then there was another offer that was like 25 million in a year, but only with 2 million in incentives, which would bring you, that would bring him to where he could make up to 27 million. That was what was authorized, but J-Rob never offered it.
What do you mean?
He never offered it to AJ Brown. He offered AJ Brown 16 million plus 4 million in incentives. That's as high as he was going to go.
Where were those other numbers coming from, though?
Those other numbers were coming from ownership and, the people who manage the cap, who say this is what we can afford. This is what
you're saying, that AJ never even saw those numbers, that J-Rob just strictly offered him the 16. That's insane. That is insane.
And that's when AJ started talking about he wanted to be traded.
That's probably when he cut off because I think he cut off communication there for a bit.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the owners were saying, we're willing to go up to 29 in incentives, 22 million a year plus 6 to 7 million incentives. That's probably, how many 100-yard games, how many touchdowns, playoff games.
The breakdown of the incentives and stuff like that, it wasn't told to me. The breakdown wasn't told, but it was $6 to $7 million in incentives. That is what he was offered. That's what he was supposed to have been offered.
Supposed to be offered. And J-Rob didn't even take that to him.
No.
Like ever?
As far as I know, no. As far as anyone that I've talked to knows, no.
That is
that's the face.
That's mind blowing.
Right, That's
Hey,
the face that I
hey,
wanted to see. Is like,
that is
what?
that's mind blowing. And like Sin City Titan says, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It
I mean,
doesn't.
I'm not saying you're lying or anything, because you've
It
always
doesn't make
been
any sense to me.
100%.
But if you look at the media outlets and you the $29 million lines up with what a lot of the people in the Titans organization have said to privately to these folks, and they've repeated on, they've repeated. He was offered up to $29 million, and he didn't take it.
Right.
But he was never
And
offered that but they had expected he had been offered that.
and let me ask you this, and this is the question, and Sin City's got a good point. Why would J. Rob lowball if Miss Aiming was willing to pay? It's not his money. I mean, that's a valid thing to ask. I was going to ask you.
That's the thing that I don't understand. I mean, I honestly I'm sitting here looking at this, and keep in mind, this is coming from several different sources. Yeah, this is what we were prepared to pay him.
Wow, man.
And I don't know
that's
if
pretty
J. Rob
incredible.
thought he was, trying to balance the cap or save money for the cap, because there are legitimate reasons why you wouldn't want to do
Yeah.
something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah. And we know Sin, and I was going to ask him the same thing.
Sin,
so you're good.
I honestly don't know myself. I don't understand. This is why I keep saying I don't understand what J. Rob was thinking. I don't get what he was thinking. But that goes along with the Jeffrey Simmons thing.
Thank you, Narb, dude.
Jeffrey Simmons, they had been working on his contract all off season. They've been trying to figure out a way to deal with his contract, and how is it? And then there was a quote, something to the effect that Jeffrey Simmons says, "Well, we don't know how much we were going to pay him. We don't know how we're going to pay him, or something like that. We don't know how we're going to pay you." Well, the whole thing is that, like I said, once again, you can do some cap magic, and we've got one of the best in the business, Shannon Myers, that does a lot of the cap stuff. Shannon Myers is the senior vice president and CFO. She's essentially the cap guru. She can work the numbers. I mean, she can work the numbers like no one else. I understand a little bit about cap and all that stuff, but Shannon is a guru. That's why the Titans went and got her. Jeffrey Simmons, I don't want to get into specifics, but ownership really, Amy and the ownership really wanted his contract locked up before the season. They really wanted it kind of locked up and locked down for the season, because the only thing he's going to do is get more expensive at the end of the season. And as an owner, you know that.
Amy wanted Jeffrey's
contract to be locked up. Yeah. But they didn't want to get into Jeff's contract until AJ's contract stuff was worked out. And then when he was traded, of course, they could work on it. And that's when you saw them start getting, kind of working toward that. But once again, there's this whole mentality of Jon Robinson to kind of wait to the last minute for contracts.
Yeah.
And as a player, it's annoying to me. It would be annoying to me, because I would want to know where I stood. You know what I'm saying? I would want to know, am I going to be able to pay, this isn't, NFL, they're not, I don't think they're worried about being able to pay their light bill or feed their family, but, I would be, that's the kind of mentality I have. Okay, where do I stand financially? Where's this going to go? Am I going to make the money I want or need to make? So he would wait for contracts to the last minute and make offers. And of course, by then, these guys are thinking, okay, I'm going to have to go into the free agent market. I may have to go in the free agent market next year. I need to be prepared to, uproot my family, move them wherever. And they're into that mentality at that point. And these guys, and J Rob just tended to wait till the last second, make an offer. And he, from what I understand of the tenor of the contract negotiations, he was kind of a hardball type of guy. Here's our offer. What do you think? It wasn't that. It was like, here's our offer, and that was it. Um, and of course,
Right.
good agents are going to go back and forth and stuff like that. But J. Rob didn't really do a whole lot of that. He might come up a little bit here or there, and then that goes back to the AJ Brown thing where, when you're that far apart, AJ was looking for, 25 range, somewhere
Mm-hmm.
around there. And you start at 16, you know, that's a big
Right.
difference. And bridging that gulf is, bridging $9 million a year is a pretty big leap. So he starts late on the Jeffrey Simmons contract, and that's why they ran out of time. They just flat out ran out of time. So, what are you going to do when all this stuff happens? He constantly and consistently waited the last minute to do stuff like that. And the funny thing is that the Brown trade was really a surprise to ownership too, essentially, because a lot of the details had been already agreed to verbally, by the time he had told them that the deal was going to happen. And he did, and by the time he told by the time he told the coaching staff, the deal was already done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things like if you or I did any of that stuff in our jobs, we would have been fired a long time ago. And I think a lot of this, my understanding is a lot of this stuff with the AJ Brown debacle is what I'm going to call it, came up um, when they started looking at offer sheets because you're required to submit offer sheets,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't see the other offer sheets. And of course, all this time, they had been, all this time, the coaching staff had been kind of grumbling about, look, we don't feel we have enough input on the players that we're getting off of free agency and it was one of those things where, I mean, it's just I don't understand how or why. Just to be honest
Yeah.
with you, I honestly don't get it. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what his thought process was, but it doesn't make any sense to me if my boss says, "Look, go ahead and pay the guy X amount."
Yeah.
I might try to start him off a little lower so that we can meet at the number in which my boss has told me to get to, that I can get to. But I'm
Right.
not going to start him out at the lowest of low ball numbers and then him get pissed off and go, "I'm done with this." And I'm not going to try to insult the guy.
And going back to the point of like, why would he not, why would he hide that type of thing from Amy and that stuff like that? In a way, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense to be fired this abruptly like this, considering you've had winning seasons ever since you've been
Mhm.
here. You know what I mean? You've helped turn the team around. And that's what I was talking about with Corey the other day is there's got to be more to the story for an owner to just all of a sudden say, "You're out of here, dude," after you've brought all this winning to
Yeah.
Tennessee. you're the top 5 team in the NFL for the past, 5 seasons.
Yeah.
They're literally a top 5 team in wins. There has to be more to the story. There has to be a reason that she fired him just boom like that with, they're still a playoff team. They're still in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
They're going to win the division, more than likely, hopefully. But, that's what I'm saying. What you're saying, in my mind, people might say, oh, that's asinine. In my mind, it makes sense, because the only way you're going to fire somebody like that with that type of, what do you call it? With that type of resume that he's put in with you, is if you're doing something that insane to where it would cause you to get fired.
And where was that? I just saw a comment about, do you offer him the max offer at first? No, and that's what I just said. I don't offer him the max offer at first, but I do know I can get there, and I know I'm not going to insult the guy and tell him he's only worth $16 million a year. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to insult anyone. That's worth that. I'm just not going to, that to me, that would be insulting. If I'm one of the top, receivers in the NFL, and you come to me and tell me that I'm going to be making middle of the pack receiver money, middle of the pack, number one receiver money, I'm not going to be happy with that. I might take offense to it too, because these things are all based on, are you better than this guy? Are you better than that guy? Or, that's how they kind of look at it. Are you better than receiver A? Well, if the answer is no, if the answer is no, I'm not better than him, then that my pay is going to be less than that. If the answer is yes, then you go, okay. And then you get to the point where you're like, I'm better than this guy, but I'm not as good as this guy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then that's where your number ends up falling.
I want to play this video again real quick. I played at the beginning. And then for the people who just came in here, we've got almost 70 people in here, no telling how many on Twitter. So tighten up that like button. Sorry we haven't been able to get to as many as your comments. I've just kind of been letting James break this news. We'll kind of recap what we've been talking about for those who don't know what the bombshell is about this, and about J Rob and AJ and all that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ducky, Sin City Titan, JS75, Joshua Medina, Al Pierce, Max Titan, DBS. We see you, Chris Fraser. We appreciate you, man.
Now, Joshua Medina,
Jeff
I do want to
to
answer that question a little later.
What was that question?
How did Amy not follow up about the offer and things like that? We'll get to that a little later.
Okay. I'll find it and we'll get to it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, every one of you. Please hit the like button if you can. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. But let's play this video, then I'll kind of recap, and we can continue on this little J-Rob journey we're going on today. Here was Amy today. Teresa, shout out to Teresa Walker. She's been on this show so a couple times. So shout out to her. This was her interview. And kind of peep the tone of Amy during this.
Honestly, I had made the decision. It was time to move forward. There was no reason to go 6, 7, 8 weeks, however long we remain in the season. It was not fair to Jon. It was not fair to the team. It just seemed the right thing. It gives us plenty of opportunity now to identify future candidates that we're going to interview, to get to know watch the internal candidates. It's I'm just not that person that's going to sit on a decision like that. This was my decision. I saw on social media that Mike gave Amy an ultimatum. That is just so false. That it never happened. People that say that don't know Mike Vrabel. That would not be something he would say or do. And he actually had a great relationship with Jon. So I want to put that to rest right now.
So to kind of recap, we got more people in here now, 75 people. To kind of recap what we've been talking about, the kind of breaking news that James has brought in here tonight that I absolutely love. Basically, the gist of it is that during the whole AJ thing, Jon offered him 16 million. I'll let you tell it.
Well,
Just kind of recap it.
Jon offered 16 million plus 4 million in incentives that he could reach each year, which would bring his possible salary up to 20 million. He was authorized two different ways to do this. One was 22 million with $6 or $7 million in incentives. That's what he could go up to. That doesn't necessarily have to be the offer. But he could also, the other thing he could do was 25 million with $2 million worth of incentives. And he chose this. He chose to only offer, 16 with 4 million in incentives. That to me that would be insulting. And
it's a slap in the face.
Yeah, as much as he's done, as much as he did for the franchises, as valuable he was, and me personally, I kind of, I would kind of hesitate to try to hit that upper end of 22 to 7 million in bonuses, but the thing is I would want a large percentage of this possible earnings to be in incentives, simply because he, over the last few years, he's been injured a lot. He was out several games. He's not been able to play several games. So I would want some incentives, a lot of incentives. So I would have probably started around maybe 20 million. And said, we can get you to 20, and then we can get you 6 million in incentives, and I think that would have, we're if I'm AJ, now I have to put on my new hat. I'm the player, and I'm AJ. I would have probably looked at that and said, okay, we're close to where I want to be. Let's see, what we can work with, and I don't cut off negotiations. I don't cut off communications with them. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how, as a GM, I would have taken it, and then as a player, I would have taken it. I'm not very close. We're not that far off. And then I would have been like, okay, how about this? How much of it? Let's work with the guaranteed money, and that kind of stuff. That's when you start working. Okay, let's work with the guaranteed money. Can you get this? Let's get this to 21 at it with six in bonuses. That's you kind of work those numbers that way. You kind of work those negotiations that way, so that you can kind of get there. But when you start 4 million under market value for a mid-tier receiver, that, I mean, he's at mid, for 16 million a year is a mid-tier number one receiver. That's just the market. That's just where the market is.
Yeah. They gave Christian Kirk 15.5, at Jacksonville, which was inflated for him, but still.
So you see 15.5 for a guy like Christian Kirk, and you're offered 16. That's a slap in the face to me as a player.
Yeah. Definitely I see that. And there was a lot made of AJ kind of cutting the team off, and that it probably was, depending on how much he cut them off. I don't know if it's, from what I hear, he just disappeared pretty much, after that for the next month or something. Which,
Now,
I mean, that was probably wrong, but
I've
still, I mean,
had
I can see that's a slap in the face. I mean, especially you've been with an organization like that and you're putting up the numbers you are, even though he had the injuries the
yeah,
last season. But still, I mean,
I've heard that he didn't cut off communication with some of the players. He did cut off communication with management and ownership, or management in particular. That he was just like, I'm done.
yeah,
I want trade. I want out. And
yeah,
and with that kind of a deal, I kind of understand it.
yeah. And Max Titan, we are not being sponsored by Manscaped. Just let you, it's
No,
just let
this is it's laundry day, guys. It's laundry day.
yeah. We almost were sponsored
Yeah.
by Manscaped, weren't we?
Yeah,
We almost had that going, but yeah.
this is literally laundry day. So I've got I got stuff drying in the dryer right now to put on.
That's funny, man.
So yeah, so that's where all that is. Where you know where do the Titans go from here? That is, I think, the burning question. And a lot of people are like, well, we're salary cap, handcuffed and stuff, but we're really not. You got to figure Taylor Lewan is not coming back. He has no dead cap space after the end of this year, so he's 14, I think 14.8. Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
no
he's
dead cap
14.8
space or number.
Yeah. So and Robert Woods, he has no dead cap space. I don't believe he has any dead cap space at the end of this year, and he's 13.7 or 13 somewhere between 13.7 and 13.8. And then you've got Bud Dupree. He has some dead cap space for next year, but I don't think it's a whole lot. And he's somewhere around 9.3, 9.4. I don't think I wrote them all down, but so we've got somewhere close to 32 to 37 million in cap space, because you got to figure these guys aren't coming back. So cap space is not a really big issue for the Titans. And people are talking about, oh, we need to cut some players and that kind of stuff. And just to be quite honest with you, there's not a lot of players that we could cut that would really affect the cap space that much for next year. I mean, even if you decide to cut like Ryan Tannehill, he's still going to be 18, almost $19 million of dead cap.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about having a starting quarterback who's not ready. And then you can just, with three guys, you can save anywhere, like I said, 32 to 30, 37, $38 million, somewhere around there. And you have plenty of cap space then. And that doesn't include the adjustment up for the cap next year. So, the Titans are not hurting in cap. They're just not. So,
yeah.
So we're not in a bad space.
I saw a question up here that caught my eye. I do want to put this. Josh from Medina, he says,
yeah.
Sorry, my question was, how did Amy not follow up and ensure that the full offer was made? She dropped the ball here as well. Kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, the owner can't be everywhere and see everything all the time. Number one. Number two is, once the player has said, look, you've insulted me, I'm not talking to you anymore, she can follow up all she wants. At that point, if he's decided he doesn't want to be there, he's not going to be there. I mean, unless you offer him ridiculous amounts of money that you can't afford.
Yeah.
So there's two things with that, and you know how this all came to kind of light was that she did follow up after she started hearing you know, AJ Brown talk a few right before the Titans game. You know, he started talking a lot more about what went down. So
Yeah.
you know, I think that you know you really just can't. I mean, you can't look at every single contract. You have to trust your GM, and if you don't trust your GM, he doesn't need to be there. Thus, J. Rob is not there.
Wow.
You know, that's
Um,
just my you know that's just what I've pieced together, and that's a lot of a lot of the things about what this is these are kind of amalgamation of why I think he was fired was like, hey, you know, and the Ryan Tannehill contract thing was done during COVID. So they had
yeah.
to do some ridiculous things because he had a contract that they needed to restructure so they could fit in under the COVID cap
Yeah.
because they had anticipated that the cap was going to go up and up and up and up and up. And when he restructured, the restructuring was essentially so that Derrick Henry could get re-signed. So
Yeah. So the so it's kind of the same situation with Simmons, right? I mean,
mhm.
do you think that definitely led into him being fired too,
Yeah,
or contributed to
my
him being fired?
yeah, that was an interesting conversation that I had with a couple of sources about that. One of them was that um, he felt that it was that Jeffrey Simmons it wasn't didn't take him out of context, but he didn't phrase that J Rob didn't phrase it properly. About we don't know how we're going to pay you. That it wasn't phrased properly. What he really what one of my sources was saying was what he thinks really was being said was we don't know how we're going to structure the deal. You see what I'm saying? And you understand the
Yeah.
difference between those two. You know,
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
saying we don't have the money to pay you. He was, kind of saying, but then that comes down to the communication and waiting so late in the process of of getting to the contracts.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things where I think and you can tell by the way Jeffrey Simmons was quoted that he was not happy about what was said. And that was one of the things about J Rob is that um he was kind of abrupt and
Yeah.
he didn't kind of phrase things the way that you know you would expect the GM to talk.
Yeah.
And you see that a lot. And if you go back to his press conferences, you'll see that a lot in his press conferences. If you start, you know, comparing him to other GMs and how they talk about things like that.
Yeah. Man, this is wild. It kind of makes sense now, the way Vrabel talks in press conferences and things about certain players that they've acquired.
Yeah.
It does make sense, and I I've been racking my brain all week, like trying to think, there has to be more to the story. There has to be, you know, like I said, and I'll say this again. I mean, the guy turned this organization around. The 2 years before he came, we had a total of 5 wins in both of those seasons, and he came
Yeah.
in and completely helped turn around this organization. So, I mean, got to give props to J Rob for that. But it's almost like if say the company you work at, say you go and order some material or whatever, and you order half of what you need, and you can't get the other half until, or you can't ever get it again.
Yeah.
That looks bad on you. You're more than likely could get fired for something like that, because you're talking about, millions of dollars worth of product and stuff, and it kind of makes sense now that there had to be a reason that she abruptly just said, hey, look, thanks for winning all these freaking games. What, at least probably, I don't know what the record is in the last, since he's been here, but I'd say it's over 60 wins, if not more, probably 60 and something. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat can look that up for us real quick. But it's just, it does make sense, man. It does make sense, because if you're hiding something, I don't say hiding's the right word, but if you're kind of leaving that out and saying, she's saying, oh, here's look here, you're allowed to offer him 22 with these 7 million incentives, or 25 with the 2 million. This is what you can do. And then J-Rob takes it and he's like, oh, here you go, buddy. Here's 16. Will you take and AJ's like, whoa, close the door,
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those. It's one of those things. And when you've got a cap guru that's telling you, hey, we can afford this. We can get this under the cap. We can make, this will be fine under the cap. We can sign this player and da da da. It kind of like, to me, it looks like, well, if my owners are telling me to do something, telling me I can do it, my cap guru is saying, yeah, we'll make it work.
Yeah.
And then, I go out and essentially fumble,
there we go.
66 and 43. Yeah. I mean,
not bad.
And I essentially go out and not only just fumble the ball, but I walk up to the player and say, here, I want you to go ahead and I'll protect you while you run to the end zone. Am I going to go to my boss and tell them, hey, I just screwed up really big?
Yeah.
I just insulted one of our most important players, one of our at least top 5 best players between offense and defense. Am I going to do it? Hell no. No, bro. They gonna have to find out on their own. Because I'm gonna get this paycheck for a little bit longer at least. So that's I mean, so in a way, I understand why it took so long to figure out all of this and all, because I'm not going to snitch on myself. That's just stupid.
Let's go back to this video real quick. Short clip. You all remember this. Let me take this banner off so we can get a good shot at it. And we all saw this, but it's a classic video.
Strategy to accommodate. That is a huge loss. Let me be clear. AJ Brown, that is not an easy thing to replace, or I think Rabes needs to take a second here. He clearly, that's quite a trade, but it's fun for the rest of us. Maybe not for Mike Vrabel, though.
Yeah. Let's play it one more time.
Strategy to accommodate. That is a huge loss. Let me be clear. AJ Brown, that is not an easy thing to replace, or I think Rabes needs to take a second here. He clearly, that's quite a.
Pretty crazy. And this was Vrabel talking about the I guess the ownership. Let's see.
Well, I think let me just say that we all have tremendous support from Amy, from Kenneth, from Barkley, the infrastructure that they've put in place here with the facilities and the people. I'm confident that we have their full support, and to do our job and to move forward. Amy made a decision and made a statement. So all I can say is thanks for her support as we come to work each and every day.
Let me ask you this, James. So a lot's been made. I brought this up a little bit earlier. We didn't really touch on it. A lot's been made about Amy not being there for the press conference. A lot's been made in the media. They've been talking about it. Corey talked about it on this show. And I don't really want to get into it's right or wrong or any of that. But what I want to ask you is this kind of a sign of Mike Vrabel having a lot more power? Like, is this, for me, I guess I'm looking at it in a conspiracy theorist type of way, I guess. But is this a sign that, okay, Vrabel, you go out there, take care of it for me? Do you think this is kind of leading into like, and not, I don't want to say Bill O'Brien, I don't want to put that juju on it, but like kind of, you know how Belichick's got quite a bit of power, you know what I mean, in the organization and the decision making. Is Vrabel gonna have more power? Is he gonna be kind of a half GM, half coach? I mean, is this what we're kind of leading into with this situation?
From everything that I've been able to ascertain about Mike Vrabel, he just wants to coach football. He wants to coach football with good players.
Yeah.
And he trusts his staff. And sometimes I think he trusts them too much. I personally, you know how I feel about our OC. So, and I think he trusts him a little too much.
Everybody does.
I think he trusts him too much. But he trusts his staff. So when his staff tells him, look, this is the player that is best suited for what we need, I think he kind of expects the GM to go, are you all in agreement? And if they go, yeah, to go out and get that guy. So will Vrabel end up with more power? I think he'll end up with the power that he deserves and most head coaches need.
Yeah.
So is it more? Yes. Is he going to be making day-to-day decisions on players? Probably not. But he's going to have. I would feel, if my GM, if I told GM I want this player, and then he comes to me and says, "Hey, look, I can't get this guy because it's going to cost too much, either money or drafts or." Some trade has to happen that is just not beneficial for the team in the long term. Vrabel's kind of a no nonsense kind of guy. He's, I have a feeling that he would say, okay, well then here's the next guy. Here's the next guy, and here's the next guy. Try to get one of these. So to me, that's where I feel is he going to have more power? Yeah, I think he's going to have a lot more say, and he's going to be listened to more. But and that goes back to J. Rob just going out and getting players saying, "Here, play with this guy." Have some of them worked out? Yeah, I mean, yeah. There have been a few guys that he's kind of just done his own thing, and they worked out, but. Overall, I think the Titans would be in a much better position had, I don't want to call out players and coaches and things like that, but had they gone out and gotten some of the players in which the staff had said these are a better fit.
Right. And I want to share this real quick if I can get it on the screen here. If not, I'll just read the thing off. This was the article that Teresa put out, and it had more stuff than the video that she had posted about that she had posted with the owner. And shout out to her for getting that. Let me see. Yeah, we can get it on the screen here. So she was, I guess, Teresa had asked her, was the decision made because of AJ's game against Philadelphia, and she said, I'd already made my decision. AJ had a great game, more power to him, but that didn't actually have anything to do with that. Strunk said that she couldn't ignore the holes on a roster that used 76 players this season after setting an NFL record with 91 different players last season. at the end, she says, "I told the fans from the very beginning that I want to win it all, and I want to be one of those elite teams that people are always scared of, and it's my responsibility. And eventually, it's up to me to make those kind of decisions that get us there." So very well.
And
by
yeah,
her.
I mean, and like I said, this her looking into this, like I said, started before the game. It started the weeks leading up to that as AJ started talking about this stuff, as Jeffrey Simmons started talking about this stuff, as the coaches over the last couple of years have been kind of, I guess, mumbling about, things like that. I think there was one quote um, where Mike Vrabel essentially said, we have to play with the players that we're given. And
Yeah,
to me, that was a weird
he did say
statement
that.
because the players you're given, to me, it'd be like, weren't they agreed to by everybody? Didn't y'all sit down and talk about this? And
Yeah,
then this comes out about, yeah, they would sit down and talk about it, and then J Rob would just go out and do his own thing anyway. You go rogue. you know. So
right.
it's now it kind of all begins to make sense in my head of like, oh, so that was what was going on. That's why this happened this way. This is why they're speaking in, these cryptic terms where they don't want to, they don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but at the same time they want everyone to know, hey, this ain't us.
Right.
So
Man,
I
what a
mean, it's
great show. What a
it's
great
just
show
wild
tonight.
to
Thank
me.
you so much for bringing this information to us, man. It's been awesome, and you guys hit the like button. This is the type of news that you'll get here at the Titan Upload Network, man. A lot of people think sometimes, we're just YouTubers and this and that, but man, we've broke some stuff on this network that not even, we've beaten, and not to toot our own horn, but we've literally beaten Ian Rappaport to some of these news things. I'm not saying this one, but stuff, players being released, the Brett Kern being released, Malik starting his first game, the Henry news last year. So, like I said, we're not tooting our own horn, anything like that. We love the team, and this type of stuff. This is fun to us, right? We
Yeah.
love
Oh
doing
yeah.
this, man. This is fun to us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we appreciate the support.
And she did say, I've ignored holes. Well, there are times when you just kind of have to ignore holes. I mean, every team, there's not a single team in the NFL that doesn't have a hole somewhere. Sometimes two.
Yeah,
The difference is okay. The two holes in the Tennessee Titans that we know of, the two ginormous holes, wide receiver position and offensive line play. Am I correct? I don't think anybody out there would
right.
say that we have the greatest offensive line or really good receivers. You can
Yeah,
neglect not having, the best receivers in the NFL if you have a really good offensive line. Given enough time,
right.
even a mediocre receiver is going to get open. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Or if you have really, really
yeah,
good receivers, but have a decent offensive line, a serviceable offensive line, you could ignore part of not having a great offensive line because you got great receivers and they're going to get open within the first 2 or 3 seconds.
right.
So
We had a
ignoring those
question.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the question?
We had a question come in. Let's see, where was it here? Jonathan Hernandez. He says, James, I hear Vrabel wanted to keep Brett Kern around. Is that true?
That is one of those things where I think he was just fond of Brett Kern. But I mean, but he eventually listened to his staff. He trusted his staff. And his staff said, we've got a better guy that's younger that we can sign for less. But
Right.
once again, he listened to his staff tell him that and trusted them enough to go, okay, well then you guys are right. And he
Yeah.
went with, and he went with what his staff had made the decision. If you don't trust your staff, why the hell are they there?
Yeah. And Sin City's kind of, this was basically for y'all, for those who just showed up, and we'll post this on Twitter and stuff too. But J Rob basically J Rob lowballed AJ, even though he was authorized by ownership to pay up to $29 million. That's kind of the jaw dropping news that we dropped, which is pretty insane. It's a pretty insane thing that happened, and it's look, if you're keeping information from, or you're keeping deals and kind of tidbits of, because look, in this type of industry, you're not dealing with a few dollars here. You're
No.
dealing with players lives, their futures, millions of dollars, potentially millions of dollars in ticket sales. You might even lose a few fans in the seats. They might not be diehard fans, but you might lose a few people. You don't have the players like AJ, or even if you don't keep Simmons around, I mean, you might lose a few bucks, especially on, jersey sales and all that type of stuff. So it does make a difference. It definitely makes a difference when you lose a monumental player like AJ Brown, for sure. It has a ripple effect. It wouldn't be, I don't think it'd be something like if you lost Henry or something like that, but still, it's a pretty big deal. And that's kind of the news that we broke tonight. Anything else you got on that, any of that type of news or anything?
Well, the one thing is that I have been told by several that they are, they are looking high, low, internal, external, and that essentially ownership is saying we're going to find the guy, not a guy. We're going to find the guy to to take over a team with it that they think is Super Bowl contenders and should be Super Bowl contenders for a long, long, long time. Which I think is, if you
Yeah.
do things right, that can happen.
Right. I love the fact that Amy is like, hey, we want to be elite. We want to be a team that other teams are scared of. I think it's awesome that she put it that way.
And our defense is
And
elite.
you guys, it is, yeah. I mean, they need to. It sucks players we got out.
Yeah.
This upcoming week, and we'll talk about that. We'll go on a little longer and talk about that some too. And if you guys, if you just got in here and you missed the news, just scroll back here and there. You'll kind of catch it, and I'll cut out a snippet of the show and show it on, put it on Twitter and stuff too, of kind of the juicy stuff. But so just go back and look at it. Please hit that like button if y'all haven't yet. We'd love to get 100 likes today. We've had 80 to 90 people in here tonight, James. So this has definitely garnered some attention, and we appreciate it. Okay, let's get to this. And Amy brought this up. Amy brought this up too in the article about the 76 players this season, the 91 players last season. These are the players that are out for Sunday. So 3 of our, Danico Autry still out. When we did release something that he wouldn't be out too long, I think, I think if this would be like a division deciding game, he probably would have played possibly, or at least they might have went for a game time decision with him. But you got Autry, Fulton, and Long, 3 of our best defensive players out, which is terrible.
Yeah.
Then the bad part about this, James, is you got Trey Avery out, who's been, filling in for Fulton when he's not on the field. And Trey Avery's been playing some good ball, even though he got beat last week by AJ, but he was draped all over AJ. AJ just made that incredible behind the back, insane play that only a player like AJ can make. But then you got our punt returner, CJ Board, is out. Then, it's just like, this is an every week thing, man. This is an every week thing. We're getting used to it now. I guess, you really can't blame J-Rob on how many players have got injured, or nothing like that. But
what you can blame J-Rob for is, Julio had made a comment about the state of how the Titans treat injuries. He kind of alluded to, he'd never seen anything like this. And that, to me, look, I've said this several times. The Titans need to take a top to bottom look at the entire organization. I don't think it was just J-Rob that needs to go. I think there are a lot of things. When I say top to bottom, I mean top to the guy who cleans the toilet. If he's not the best toilet cleaner in the NFL, I don't want him. The guy who sweeps, the stands. I want the best. I want the best. So I think, they should be looking at the training staff. I think they need to be looking at the medical staff. I think they need to be looking at all of those things, because I think it's kind of odd that we have guys come here and they're injured all the time, and then they go somewhere else, and a year later they're made of steel. You can't hurt them.
Right.
You're always going to have those freak injuries where, you like Burks, where you go up and you catch a ball in the end zone and you get a cheap shot to the head. There's nothing you can do about that. That is what it is. Concussions just take time to heal. Believe me, I know. I'm recently recovering from one myself. So, and I'm not fully back there either. It's a slow process. The brain is slow to heal. So those types of things are, those are things that are unavoidable. But recurring injuries over and over and over again, the same injuries to the same player, the same injuries to other players, tells me that something is wrong with my training staff, my strength and conditioning coaches.
Right.
Something is going wrong there where these players are getting injured in this way. If it's not the training staff, well, maybe it's the field that we play on. Maybe we're using the wrong kind of grass. Maybe we're using, but I leave no stone unturned to get championship team. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So
And
that's where I think it is.
And guys, sorry, I don't know if the connection's a little blurry or not. I've been getting one bar for like the last 15 minutes, so we've been having a few issues with the Wi-Fi lately, so apologies for that if that's the case. Hopefully it's coming in decent, so apologies for that. So we got 85 in the building. Let's talk about this game coming up. Obviously, what's his name? Trevor Lawrence. Had a brain fart there. He's been hurt this week. So the thing is, he probably is going to play. He's been practicing and things like that. These 3 games, and I'll pull up the schedule here. These next 5 games, right, are pretty important. Now we basically, if we win this week against Jacksonville, and the magic number goes to 1. So basically, we win one. If we win the next one, we're in. If Indianapolis loses their next game next week against Jacksonville, that makes it the magic number 1. So if Indianapolis loses that next week's game, we beat Jacksonville, then we win the division, get a home playoff game, which is insane to think about because we're 7-5. That's how crap this division has been. These next 5 games, you got Jacksonville at home, LA in LA, Houston at home, Dallas at home, Jacksonville away. Now, ideally, you would I think you would definitely need to go 3-2. I mean, not to win the division, but just to at least have a shot of being a decent team heading into the playoffs. But what is your thoughts on these last 5 games? What do you think we can do? Do you think we're going to just automatically lose the Chargers aren't that great this year, but they're still going to be a tough game. They still got Justin Herbert. They still got what's his name, Williams, Eckler, all those players.
Yeah.
But what do you think of the next 5 games? I mean, do you think we can turn this around and be hot going into the playoffs, or does the offensive line suck too much and they're not going to make a change? They can't, and they don't have anybody else other than Daly, really. I mean, but how do you feel?
Well, I feel the 2 Jacksonville games are, for lack of a better term, must wins. You win both of those, doesn't matter anything else. You win both of those, you're in. Right? And those are in my opinion,
pretty much. Those
are 2 highlight games. And I would want to win my last game. Just hands down. You always want to go into the playoffs with a win, regardless. The Houston game is another game that I think is a must win, not because it secures the playoffs for us, but the Houston game going into the Houston game, you can go, look, we are clearly the best team, head and shoulders in the division. Head and shoulders.
Right.
We've beaten every team in the division, and hopefully we'll have beaten every team in the division twice. With the end of the Jacksonville. The Chargers, I think, are kind of like a test game for us. Kind of like, hey, we've had some turmoil in the house. We've had some issues. Let's go punch somebody in the mouth. And let's let it be, let's go to LA and let's be there. Let's go punch somebody in the mouth on the road. And the Dallas game, you just want to win at home. I think all of these games are very important for symbolic reasons. I want to beat a really good team, and I want to beat a really good team. So that's the Dallas team. That's the team that's left on the season. That's a really good team. I want to sweep my division. So there you go, Houston and Jacksonville. And I want to punch somebody in the mouth on the road. That's a pretty good team, and that's LA. So these are all big games for me. I think in order for us to fathom making a real run, we just went out. To fathom making, for our players to get it in their head to say, hey, we're going to make a run in the playoffs because we just ran 5 games off of our schedule back to back to back to back to back. And now we're in the playoffs. We're going to punch somebody in the face. We're going to keep punching them into the face until it looks like, that we've just had an MMA fight or we just competed in the hockey game. That's just where I think the Titans need to be mentally. Now, when it comes to winning, we've got to win 2 games, essentially. 2 games. If Indy wins out or whatever, we need to win 2 games, and we're in. But Me, with the way I coach is no, bro. We're not going to win just 2. We're going to go out there and we're going to kick some people. They say don't kick a man while he's down, and and when it comes to football, to me, it's why not? He's that much closer to my foot.
Yeah.
That's just my mentality. Is like, yeah, I'm gonna kick him. Yeah, the team is down there. Yeah, they're losing. They're not gonna make the playoffs. Well, I don't care. I really don't care. They're not making the playoffs. Well, that's just more reason for us to go out there and kick them while they're down. They're not in contention
Yeah.
anyway. That's
Well,
just my mentality.
yeah. Hopefully, we can get back to the type of defense we were playing, prior to these last couple games or whatever. We can get back to that, making you earn every yard type of defense that we were playing, and get on a hot streak and going. I think it's possible. I mean, it sucks that we still have Daly, and I just, they're talking about, what's his name was talking about, one of the coaches, it could have been the offensive line coach, talking about how the Raven Clark was making it a competition, so they might roll Raven Clark out there, but at this point, it's like, might as well. I mean, Daly's given up. He's tied in the league lead and given up sacks, 9 for his position. So you might as well throw somebody out there, at least for, a couple series, and see what the hell they could do. Because at this point, it's gotten to the point where the man's costing you games. I mean, he is literally costing you ball games. And I made a video about it the other day, showing during that game, we all saw it, the false start, and then he lets up the sack on Tannehill, and it kills the scoring opportunity. We got to settle for a field goal, and it's those type of things that get you beat, and during the game, and it's.
He can't. He's not a very good pass blocker, but he makes up for not being by not being able to run block either. I mean, it's one of those things where you just look at it and go, and like I said, J-Rob, I have no idea what in the world he saw in this guy, but look, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm dogging Dennis Daly. He made it to the league, and he's had a fairly good career in the league. He's in the league.
Yeah.
But maybe he'd be better in a different scheme, or maybe he'd be better sitting at home on the couch.
Right.
I don't know, but I can tell you that he is not good on this offensive line. I don't know if they need to roll help over to him. I don't know, what you can do with it.
Yeah. Sin City Titans says try Rossi at left tackle. Yeah, Sin City says try Rossi at left tackle, can't be worse than Daly. I beg to differ. I would get murdered out there. So, it wouldn't even be.
There are guys on the street.
First of all, I'm like 200 pounds. So.
There are guys on the street out there who I think could do better than Daly at this point. Now, that's not to say that something doesn't click in Daly, or Daly doesn't get angry or get some motivation, and or because I've seen that with players before. They play awful, and then everybody starts ragging on them, starts talking bad about them, talking smack about them, and the next thing you know, they're playing all pro level. It could happen. It doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but it could happen. So, I just don't know. Personally, I would have he probably wouldn't be starting for me right now. Well, no, it's not probably. He wouldn't be
starting. We'll go a few more minutes here, ask a couple more questions. We'll round it out in an hour and a half. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We've had 100 in here for the last 20 minutes. So you guys rock, man. Please hit that like button. We were up to like 70, so let's try and get up to 100, guys. That'd be amazing. I don't know if I've ever got 100 likes on an, so that'd be awesome. Titan South got a question. Is Kyle Phillips playing? No, but I mean, you got any updates on Kyle Phillips?
Just that it's slow going. They're not taking any chances with him. They see a bright future for him with the Titans, so they're not wanting to take any
Yeah.
chances with the guy. So I mean, it's I'm not sure what the future holds with Kyle Phillips because one of the reasons why he was drafted was J-Rob. So I'm just not sure what the future holds for Kyle Phillips. I mean,
Yeah.
So I hate to say anything bad about him, and then you got you've got guys on that are the same build, same quickness, and you've got a whole bunch of them that are cheaper than Kyle Phillips that can do the same things that Kyle Phillips can do. He just does it a little better. He's a hell of an athlete. I think if you ask anybody, he's really good. But you've got guys like Racy McMath. Although I'm not so sure how good he really is, he hasn't played that much for me to give an honest evaluation of him. You know, you, you know, you got you got our big number 12 sitting there, and you see and you hear all the players and the coaches talk about him. They talk about him like he walks on water. He was even featured on a graphic in the last game. Do you have that graphic that they're ready that you can throw up there?
I don't know. I don't think so. Who was featured?
Our boy, man. Did you not see that in the chat?
I don't know.
We were.
Sorry, I was typing something out too.
Where was it? It was in the chat. Somebody said, "Hey, did you see this on the game?" Yeah, did you see this on the game? And
they showed the 5 wide. No, I don't have that. No, I'm sorry, man. Yeah,
I was sitting here going,
had Mason as the front receiver on all the receivers,
and I'm sitting here going,
that was funny, man.
And you got guys, you got Racy, you got Mason, you got Kyle, you got a lot of guys on the team that can punt return, that can play in the slot, can play in the X and Z.
Yeah. Who's going to be punt returner this week?
Honestly, I think it's
Woods
going
back there again.
No, I think it's going to end up being Racy. It's going to have to be Racy. He's the only one left.
Yeah. Somebody said that Hillard might be there. I don't know.
I mean, he could go back there. I think he does have a lot of experience in that, or at least enough experience. But we are missing that dynamic guy on punt returns. We really are.
Yeah.
And we've been missing that for a while, but they're very hard to find. They're just, I mean, you just can't walk on any campus in college and find one of those guys. And once a team gets one of those guys, guess what? They never give them up.
And we've kind of settled for less too, just for guys who can just catch the freaking ball. It's like we were happy with CJ Moore just catching the ball after everybody fumbling the first, couple games and all that.
But that's
funny, man.
That job is a lot more difficult than most people think. It is a hard job. You have to track the ball. You have to track,
Definitely.
how you're You have to track the ball. You have to track how your blockers are blocking for you, so you'll know. You have to know where that first guy is because it's your responsibility to make the first guy miss as a punt returner.
Yeah.
So it's not kickoff returns a little easier because you have such a long time that you catch the ball. You can actually catch the ball and survey the field a little bit. As a punt returner, you're tracking the ball and then you're also looking down, kind of, okay, where's this guy coming from? Where am I at? And then you have to secure the ball and then take off and run and pray to God that you didn't miss somebody that's going to blow you up. It is a
Yeah.
very, very, very difficult thing to do.
And last week, man, they had little receivers for the game. Hurt. So that leaves you with CJ Board, NWI, and Woods. And literally, I mean, CJ Board's not going to line up as a wide receiver because he doesn't know any of the plays. So they were lining up Austin Hooper in the slot, and it's like, what are you doing, guys? Like, are you that? It's like we do have some guys on the practice squad that at least know what routes to run. I mean, throw another guy up there. Bring another guy up. Bring Kinsey up. Bring somebody up that in case you do have a situation like that, you can plug somebody in who knows how to run some damn routes. You know what I mean? And it's just mind-blowing to me that they keep doing that. Let's call it 4 wide receivers. And then you get one hurt and you got 3. It's just unbelievable to me. At least have 5 ready for the game. I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a big Kinsey fan. I'm just saying that just based on bodies and numbers,
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are really weird with the Titans. I'm trying to think. Where is it? We have 3 running backs.
Yeah.
Now we've got Haskins, Henry, and Hilliard. We got 3 running backs. I think the season we started off with 5, didn't we? Yeah, I think we started off with 5 running backs at the beginning of the
5
season.
running backs, yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? Who was the guy? The practice squad guy everybody liked. He's gotten to a game too. My mind's drawing a blank. The running back. I can't think. Y'all probably know in the chat.
Chestnut. Chestnut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like I was just looking at this. We've got 4 tight ends: Hooper, Chig, Rader, and Swain. I think you can get rid of one of them right there. I don't know what. I don't know what Swain brings to the table.
Swain
I don't know
brings nothing to the table.
And
nothing. Let me show you real quick before you go on. Let me show you what Jeff Swain brings to the table. This is what Jeff Swain brings to it.
Look how Cincinnati again has it all mugged up there. Tannehill throws, and the ball bounced off the hands of Jeff Swain. Very dangerous. If there was a Cincinnati defender in the vicinity, it's incomplete.
Voila!
I mean, and to be quite honest with you, what does Kevin? I don't recall Kevin Rader even being in the game. I don't recall him being in a game yet.
He comes in there every so often. Yeah, he's been in there a few times. I think his number's 86 because I've seen it and I said, "Who the hell is 86?"
Yeah,
yeah.
But I mean,
he's been in there on some blocking plays and stuff.
So my question is okay, if the reason why you're keeping Swain is that he is a really good blocker, why do you need Rader? And if you're keeping Swain because he can catch the ball, then why did you go out and draft Chig and then bring in Austin Hooper?
Was that a J-Rob thing?
But my question now is you're definitely hurting on wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's time to cut one of these tight ends and say, "Hey, guys, look, we've got to have a receiver because we don't have one. We need a receiver." That's a
So
position right there that you could bring up a receiver for.
here's who they're calling up this week, and I've had heard this. So Conley,
hmm
McMath,
hmm
NWI, and Woods. That's who's going to be your 4 this week. So
What happens if one of those guys gets
obviously,
hurt?
one of I've heard is they're calling up 4. They're bringing the 5-yard pass when that one game they played him in. They made him sit the bench the rest of the game. I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And yeah, Jerome, I agree with you, buddy. I agree. I mean, and like I said, it's not just because I'm a Kinsey homer. It's because at least the guy brings you another dimension. At least he's got some speed. He's shifty, and you're not just having all big guys out there. I mean, it just doesn't. Conley's a pretty big receiver. Racy's pretty big. Robert's not big, but there's Racy's kind of a burner, but he's not really quick. You know what I mean?
And he knows the plays. Wow. Having a receiver that knows the plays. Man, I should have thought of that.
Yeah.
Next time I'm coaching, I'm going to try to find a receiver that knows the plays.
And Tennessee Titans Weekly, who just had a show. I saw it pop on my thing. Y'all go follow them. But Hoop and Chig should be tight end 1, tight end 2 for all games, all plays. Totally agree.
If you want to keep
I think Chig's a pretty good blocker
receiver,
too.
If you want to keep a big guy for goal line situations or 1-yard situations or something like that, that's a kind of a bigger tight end that's really not going to catch anything. Yeah, keep one or the other. That's just keep one or the other, but don't take up 4 roster spots with tight ends.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 roster spots when
Um,
you are desperately in need of a wide receiver. You're in desperate need of trying to find something on that left tackle position. I mean, oof. That left tackle position is
and
an issue. Find somebody serviceable.
and Yogi says, "What's the word?" We've talked about it a few times. Basically, this was one of the big breaking news of the show. In case anybody here hasn't seen it,
Hey, let me go check on my
lowballed
boy.
AJ Brown.
Let me go check on my boy real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
all right.
I'll take over for a second. So basically, J-Rob lowballed AJ Brown when he was given the authority by ownership to offer him $22 million with a $5 to $7 million incentive per year, and also a $25 million plus a $2 million incentive. And basically, J-Rob was given the authority by the ownership to offer that to AJ, and he did not offer that. He was given up to the bottom at $16 million, and basically they're blaming him for AJ leaving. That's kind of the news we broke tonight, which is pretty shocking. And also, there's some news about Jeffrey Simmons too, and how kind of how J-Rob has kind of lowballed him too. And I think Amy got where she doesn't want to lose players like that. She said it herself that she wants to be elite, that she wants to have an elite team. She wants to have that type of team that scares you. And doing stuff like this is how you get some of your best players to tuck tail and run, because they're not gonna want that low ball on an offer. I just saw that I spelled year wrong there, so we'll fix that. But yeah, I mean, that's basically what the news was. So that basically he lowballed him. So that's kind of what we broke earlier. You guys tighten up that like button. Please, we're trying to get to 100 likes today. We appreciate all your support. We'll bring James back in there. He's good to go now. So
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You had to go whip the boy?
No, I had to go check on him. He's been quiet for too long. Yeah, he.
Oh yeah, that's how you know they're in trouble when they've been quiet too long. Hey, what are you doing in there, man? You ain't making no noise. What's going on? You're up to something.
And he's 5'6", 12 years old, and he's eating me at a house and home. I might have to start a GoFundMe page to feed him.
Yeah.
He eats like a garbage can. He eats like a garbage can, but when he takes off his shirt, he looks like a Greek god, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
That's wild, man.
I wish I had that metabolism.
He's
really
pretty
did.
athletic too, man. That kid, he's good at a lot of sports too.
Yeah, he's still in basketball. They have a few more games left, so he's still in basketball, and he's a really good musician. We're finding this out. He joined band and is playing sax, and boy, I tell you, I couldn't do it. I mean, I told him straight. I was like, look, your dad's good at a lot of things. Music is not one of them. I can sing a little bit, but
yeah, I'm a decent musician, man. I used to be a musician. I've put out some albums and things like that. So maybe I'll have to throw some videos on here sometime of me singing and whatnot. But let's get to it's Friday. Wow, it's already Friday. Let's get to some score predictions for this game. Let us know in the chat that we haven't talked a whole lot about the game. Look, I think it comes down to this. We got a bunch of our players out on defense. We're going to have to come out there. We're going to have to scrap. Jacksonville's not going to lay down. Trevor Lawrence has had some really good games as of late. The way we've been playing, man, I don't think it's just a definite shoe-in that we go out there and win. I think it's going to be another close game. I'm thinking probably one of those 24-20 type of games. I really think it's going to be like that. So y'all give us your score predictions in the chat. Let me know, James, your kind of thoughts on this game and where kind of you're leaning towards as far as a score, maybe.
As tradition, I think the Titans get most of their scoring done in the first half. And but I think the Titans are going to be able to kind of, like they usually do, just kind of power through them in the second half with the run game. Derrick Henry is still Derrick Henry. And I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if Derrick Henry owns the Jaguars, but he's put a pretty doggone big down payment on there.
That's one team he's been great against.
Yeah, he's renting to own.
Yeah.
So, I think that it plays out well. I think also the Jaguars don't have parts of the offense that they need. Usually if you're not very good in the pass game, you need to be really good in the run game. And that's what saved the Titans.
Right.
We're not very good in the pass game, but we're really good in the run game. We will run you over. So I think it's going to be a relatively low scoring game. I think it's going to be something, I think we're going to make a play on defense. And that's going to be one of our scores. And I think it ends up being somewhere around 23-17, something like that, where, it's going to be a one-score game and the Titans pull it out 23-17. And being at home is the key factor with that.
And I would, what I would love to see in this game is us to just get back on track, like in us to come out there and not play a game. I would love to see us get back on track and confidence back there, get Henry going, get him to 150 yards, something like that, and just really dominate in the run game and really kind of get some confidence and some momentum going into these final stretch, because we really need this run game to get going. It's just, that's how we're built. And I just feel like this could be the game, the starting off point where you could do that, you know. I don't think it's going to go like that necessarily, but like I said, 24-17, you said 23-17. Let us know in the chat. We'll put them up on the screen here.
The guy who I'm looking at really making a big difference in this game is probably Chig. It's either going to be Chig or Hooper. One of these two, one of those two guys is going to make the biggest difference in this game. And I just don't see anybody being able to cover Chig. He's that good. He's big. He's that
been
strong.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been great, but man. They need to get that guy the ball.
I would like to see Robert Woods play like we're paying him.
Yeah.
Give me 3 or 4 games. You know, we're paying you a bunch of money. I want to see you play like you're being paid. You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm really frustrated with Robert Woods.
He just hasn't had the speed. He hasn't had the separation, you know, I don't know. I mean, if it's the offensive line not giving time to throw or whatever, I don't know. But let's get to some of these
I
score
said this a
predictions
long time
here.
ago. Robert Woods is a really good number 2 receiver. If you ask him to be the man, he can't do it.
No, I mean, no, exactly not, because then he's going up against the number 1 corner as well.
Right.
Let's get to some of these score predictions, and we'll kind of cap off the show here. We got Big Dog 35-7 Titans, JS 75 Titans 28 Jags 14, Sin City 34-21. I like it, man. I like it. JT 22-21. I'm assuming he's going with Titans. Who else we got here? Oh, we got to have some more score predictions here. Y'all put them in the chat. We'll throw them up on the screen.
There's one from Frankie. Frankie.
Here's
right
Al.
above Al.
Frankie Avarello.
Yeah.
Avarello. 24-13 Al. What did Frankie say? Oh, if Tanny Limp plays 17-9, if Malik plays 27. I hear
Absolutely. If Malik plays, I think we lose the game. Just to be honest, he's not.
Could very well could.
He is just not. He's got an arm. I mean, don't get me wrong. He is going to be a really good quarterback. He's just not ready.
I agree with you. Steve Pohill says 24-13 Titans. So, guys, we're gonna clock on out of here. Thank you guys so much tonight. It's been an amazing show. I could probably sit here. We still have 100 people in here. I could probably go another couple hours, but I got some things I got to do. I know James probably got some things he's got to do. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Go follow James, Titans for Life on YouTube, at the Big Sportsman 3 on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Titans Rossi. Got a pretty big following on Twitter, and that's where you usually will catch all the breaking news as it happens. Now, we wanted to kind of save this for the show tonight. So follow me at Titans Rossi. Check out Titan Anderson as well. One of our close friends, kind of a contributor to the network. Check out, like I said, Titans for Life. Titans Time Podcast. Got to give these guys a shout out. One of my dear friends, Tyler. Shout out to him and his wife. Follow Titans and Truth. Follow Titans and Truth on YouTube and Twitter. Another OG of the Titans YouTube game. The Power Hour is also part of our network. And, you know, it's going to be awesome. We got a lot of good stuff planned for you guys, and we greatly appreciate it. Hit that like button. Let's get to 100 likes tonight. And, you know, we will see you guys next time. So tighten up, everybody.